later on. Somebody who writes about military life, army life, being an army wife, is Clare Macnaughton, who grew up in Wiltshire, but like so many military families, has moved around a lot. Clare currently lives in Hampshire and is married to a Chinook pilot and has 2 children. And Clare's online blog is called A Modern Military Mother. So she's here this morning very much to talk about what it's like being an army family at the moment. Morning to you, Clare.
Morning.
So how much of the spending cuts playing on the minds of people like you and your family?
Before I answer that question, I just have to say I'm an RAF wife.
Oh, sorry, I beg your pardon. You would be with a Chinook, husband, wouldn't you? A pilot as a husband. Sorry, I beg your pardon.
That's right. It's just quite a key distinction. Well, it is, of course. Anyway. I mean, it makes no difference to me, but I know my husband would be like, "You're not an army wife." But yes, well, I think from the RAF, from the Chinook Force perspective, it's a bit early for us to tell because. Obviously, the Chinook Force were one of the few areas where they're going to invest money rather than cut money, and obviously they're still operational as well. So in terms of how the spending affects us, it's really difficult because the operational budget for Afghanistan is given by the Treasury, not by the defence budget. So in terms of like right now in the here and now, for us it's a little bit early. In terms of the future. It's to do with how long will my husband stay in the service. And I think from the defence spending cuts from our perspective, it's, people don't join the military to make lots of money. That's not why most people join. And one of the problems with the defence cuts is that you will lose really good people who don't necessarily, my husband's got a degree, he's a professional aviator. He's not in the military for the money. He's in the military because he loves the job, he loves the flying, he wants to serve his country, he wants to be in the military. And when the sort of defence cuts start eroding at the potential lifestyle benefits that we have invested in, then that's when the people will start leaving. It's not just about P45s, it's about good men leaving.
So what could you lose? You just said their lifestyle benefits. What do you mean by that?
Well, my husband's got a long-term commission, and part of that commission is that at the end of it, when he signed up, he would get a cash lump sum that would be tax-free. Now, one of the things they're talking about now is taxing that cash lump sum, and we would lose 50% of it, and that's our down payment on a house.
Why shouldn't he pay tax on that money though? Because I mean, a lot of other people, if they were to get a benefit, it would be taxable.
Well, part of the reason that they sign up and put their lives on the line is because they agree to some terms and conditions at the beginning of that. That was what was offered to them as part of their incentive to join. So that was the benefit. That we didn't say put that on the table. That's what they put on the table, and therefore he's given 15 years service with the view that it's okay, we'll be able to afford a house at the end of it. Whereas now we may not be able to afford a house, or we look at the next 5 years and the onus falls on me now to earn that extra capital because we live in quarters. We haven't invested in a property in the UK.
So what are you having to do then as a mum that you weren't before?
Well, I mean, I suppose I've always worked. It's not that I'm doing something different, but I suppose the nature of the work that I'm doing is now we're looking at more, how do we create extra income through my own business, really, because I run my own business. So the idea is that we will, he creates the foundation and I go out and become very entrepreneurial.
So looking at
lottery.
looking at different ways of doing things. And in terms of, you say you wanting to get a mortgage, I mean, there have been announcements by the government about various schemes that do aim to help people in the forces, your case the RAF, and to be able to afford a house. Aren't you being offered different kinds of support?
I mean, we wouldn't buy a house now because we want to, well, we couldn't afford to buy a house, to be honest. That's for whatever reasons. But also we want to stay together as a family, and my husband's in a job that gets posted every 2.5 years. So, we don't want to take on the capital of a house when we don't know where we're going to be living every 2 years.
And for you then, what are you going to do long term? You talked about your husband thinking very much about his long term career. Do you think he will stick at it, or are you seriously going to have to look at maybe moving the family somewhere and him doing something completely different?
I mean, it just depends what happens, really, because they're in what's known as enduring ops at the moment. So, Afghanistan's not going anywhere. So, he'll be in Afghanistan twice this year, and then he'll be in Afghanistan again next year. And then, we had to look at the 5-year period and see what happens in the next 5 years in terms of how often will he go to Afghanistan and how long will he go there for. And they're talking about, putting people into Afghanistan for a year at a time now. And he's already been to Afghanistan 4 times. He's been to Iraq 4 times. Since we've been together, he's been to Bosnia, Sierra Leone, he's been in Northern Ireland, he's been in Iraq 4 times, Afghanistan 4 times, he's going to Afghanistan, twice again, and he'll go to Afghanistan next year. So that's quite a lot of pressure on a family, and you've got that coming potentially over the next 5-year period, and then in addition, then he might go out for a year, and it's just like, how much of that can you take?
Well, Claire,
is it worth it?
Claire, thank you for giving an idea of what it's like being in the military, being an RAF wife. Your blog is, I know, I had a look at it this morning, amodernmilitarymother.com, and it appears your husband has hijacked that and put on some of his top gadgets for Christmas that he would like.
Yeah, and it had the most hits as well.
Some of the electrical gadgets, I think. Yeah, he's used to spending too much time around technology.
I have to work.
Claire, lovely to talk to you. Happy Christmas to you and your family. Claire, who grew up in Wiltshire, travelled around with the RAF and some of the concerns of military families at the moment after the government's spending review.